Hey guys, so I just want to go over some of the things that we did in that year 10 Excel class when we were talking about the difference between formulas, functions, relative reference, and absolute reference. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that we did in class just as a reminder in case you had problems with it. First of all, I'm going to expand my Excel sheet. Okay, as you can see here, this is what we were working on in class. I added this. This is the asset 20.01 Excel folder that you guys will find in those source files that I gave to you guys that I downloaded on Plato. So if you open that up, you'll find this stuff. I just added this classes per week and the total hours, just like we did in class, just to show you guys the difference between a relative reference and an absolute reference. Okay, so one quick little tip that we didn't go over in class. Say you want to do a big, large title, banner title like we got here up at the top. We got this Cambridge IGCSE IT course book title. Looks nice, looks great, okay? Now if I just go to try to create a title, in this is year 10, okay? And I want it to spread across a number of columns, all right? What I do is I select the column and I select where I'd like it to go. So I want it to go, say, all around over from column Q to column W, all right? To make a nice little fancy banner title like I have that, I select this option here. First of all, I'm in Home, the Home tab, and I go to Merge and Center, and I just click that on. Boom. And that'll give me those nice little fancy banner titles that you see. We didn't go over that class, but that's a quick little tip to show you guys how to do that. Okay, so first thing I want to do, let's go over the difference between a formula and a function again. Okay, so a formula, as you can see up here in my formula bar, formula is anything that starts with an equal sign. All of your formulas, all your functions will start with equals, but a formula is just when I do something simple like this, okay? All I'm doing is I'm adding up all of these cells, which is fine, you can do that, but it can be very tedious. Imagine if you have a whole row of cells that goes all over the way to AA, okay? It might be easy to make a mistake, all right? So that's why Excel has in these fancy little functions. So this equal sum tells me merely that I'm going to add up a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of cells. And as you can see here, I'm going to add up everything that's in cell D to cell M4. Then I'm going to divide it by 100 to give me a percentage. Okay, and that's all they've done here. Okay, you've got the sum of this cell, this cell, this cell, this cell, this cell, this cell, this cell. And that's all wrapped up into a nice little function, okay? So, as you can see here, is it possible to get 4,105%? Not really in school, that's wishful thinking, all right? So, and even, you can tell, Excel's gonna give you these warnings, okay? It'll say, there's something different, something weird going on here. You might wanna have a look at, which is great. If you look up here at the formula that they put in here, you can tell that there's a mistake. Okay, that bracket there should be over here, and if I get rid of that, that'll fix it. Okay, but let's just get rid of that information. Okay, because I know that it's going to delete everything in that cell, and then I'm going to delete everything in the cell below. Okay, so I know that this little function that I have here is working correctly. So I can apply that to whatever cells I want. I'm going to apply it to everything that's in my percentage column. That's where your relative reference comes in. Okay, so the relative reference, once you have a formula or a function in there that you like and you know works, you just put your cursor down here when it forms that nice bold cross and drag and drop down to the cells that you want to select. boom, automatically does it for you. Okay, so perfect, nice. Got a nice little formula, nice little function that works for all of them. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about, next thing I wanted to talk about was an absolute function. Okay, so not an absolute function, an absolute reference. Okay, we use absolute references when we want to refer to a cell. We want to keep a cell locked in place. Okay, so I can imagine that for every class that these students have, one class is equal to 45 minutes, or as we all know from functions, it's equal to 0.75. Okay. One little note here. Okay, you can see that I've got 0.75. That's because I use a French keyboard, so I've got to use French arithmetic symbols. In France, we use a comma instead of a decimal. Okay, so just always be careful of that because you guys are using different computers. And just make sure if you've got any arithmetic problems, it might be something as simple as that. You've got your keyboard set to France or Europe instead of a British or English setting. Okay, so I can imagine that every class I have at this school is 45 minutes long, or 0.75 hours, 3/4 of an hour. All right, so we got Robert Dingle here. He's got 7 classes per week. We got Betty Nee. She's got 8 classes per week. We got Elsie Tree. She's got 10 classes per week. We got James Thomas. Okay, I want to do a little formula here to figure out what's the total hours of everybody's classes. All right, so that's where I'm going to use my absolute reference because I'm going to use this cell here. I'm going to use cell R11 all the time. I want that cell to be locked in place. I don't want it to be messed with anything. I don't want it to be moved. I always want R11 to be locked in place, and that's where a absolute reference comes into. Okay, so if I want to calculate total hours per week, I will do a little formula. I will do equals O4. So equals O4 times cell R11 times cell not 6, but R11. Okay, so as you guys know, once you do a function or a formula, Excel will highlight the boxes that you want, which is great. That's what I want. I want O3 times R11 to give me my total hours. Now, if I hit enter, boom, 5.25 hours. Perfect. Okay, but like I said, I want to nail this cell in place. I want it to be an absolute reference. In order to do that, as we went over in class, we put a $sign around the column reference. Okay, so now that active cell R11, because I put a $sign in front and beside it, I encased my R. I got a $sign there, and I've got a $sign there. That is now an absolute reference. So that cell will be locked in place. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to do the same thing now. I'm going to spread this down. Oops. Nope, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that the same formula is applied to all of these. Boom, and automatically it does it. Okay, so that's the difference between a formula, a function, relative reference, and an absolute reference. All right. This is going to be very handy. This absolute reference, when we put in this $sign around our columns, can be very, very handy when we do the next thing, which is a VLOOKUP. Okay. So yeah, very simple right now, but it's going to be very, very handy when we do our bigger things. All right, guys. See you in class. Thanks a lot.